My honest advice to anyone who is feeling uncomfortable with wearing their natural hair in a place of business, do it. The only reason you feel uncomfortable is because society has said this is the new standard and this is what you're supposed to look like and this is what we deem professionalism to be. You are the exception because they are not used to seeing someone like you in their environment. So you almost have to train them to feel comfortable and accept the way you appear in that environment.
This video was inspired by one of your lovely comments. This comment says that thank you for this video. I just cut my hair into a TWA and I love it. But I worry about wearing it to work. Is that normal or what can I do about it? All right, I've got you and we're going to talk in this video about natural hair. There's this myth that natural hair is considered unprofessional. And is there any potential risk towards you wearing your natural hair at work? Let's talk a lot more about natural hair in workspaces, especially corporate workspace. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Hello and welcome back to the channel. This is Tinuola, and right here I share valuable content. So if you like the vibe, please consider subscribing down below. All right, so let's jump right into this comment. The first thing I want to say is that wearing your TWA to work, a TWA hairstyle that you love, shouldn't be something to worry about. So responding to that question, should you worry about wearing your hair to work? Absolutely not. And feeling worried about wearing your hair to work is not a normal feeling. Now, because there is this myth around natural hair being unprofessional, I'm here to clarify that and say that there is nothing unprofessional about natural hair. The hair coming out of your scalp, the texture of your hair is completely professional and shouldn't be discriminated on. But we're going to talk a lot more about hair discrimination. So what can you do about it? What can you do about that worried feeling? I would say nothing. Let the feeling pass. As you start to wear your hair to work, if it's something that you've not done in the past, let's say you've been wearing wigs, you've been straightening your hair, you've been doing all sorts of things to your hair in the past, and now you are transitioning into natural and you want to wear more of your natural hair. Yes, it's going to feel a little bit awkward. It's going to feel new. Your work colleagues can, have one or two comments about that. They might say, oh, you look different, or, oh, I like your hair. They might give you comments here and there. That is normal. It's normal for you to feel that there's something different about your appearance. And I'll tell you, to be honest, that feeling is going to go away over time. You're going to get used to wearing that hair to work. It's not going to be a problem for you. Now, it depends on where you work, because I also want to ask a question directed to you that, how is your work environment? Because being worried about wearing your hair to work, it could be that you feel like your hair wouldn't be accepted at work. So how do you find your work environment? And if you've been wearing your TWA to work maybe in the past couple of days, please let us know your experience so far. TWA is beautiful. It doesn't demand effort or too much attention. And of course, you want to wear your hair happily to work since it's something you love. So please don't feel like you're going to be discriminated because of your hair, especially if you've not experienced that yet. I want to first clarify that hair discrimination is not worldwide. For example, if you live in West Africa compared to if you live in North America, you're going to have different experience. In West Africa, take for example Nigeria, where I'm from, it's not a big deal for you to wear natural hair to work because everyone has natural hair. Like, we all have textured hair growing out of our scalp. Not everyone wears the natural hair. In fact, wearing your natural hair is not really the popular option in corporate world, but it's not frowned upon. You would not be discriminated for wearing your natural hair. Yes, people might look at you from certain lens. They might quickly tag you as, maybe you being a very serious-minded person or being religious, for example, scriptural union, or you're just a simple person, you love natural aesthetic. And the other thing is maybe you're just poor, you're broke. Those are the tags that they might have towards you, and that's the maximum. There is nothing like you losing a job or getting discriminated towards because of your natural hair. But if we're going to bring it to obviously North America or the Western world, there is a different experience with hair discrimination because, yes, in West Africa and Nigeria, it's Black dominated. So having textured hair, specifically type 4 hair, is not an issue. But in the Western world, there are different hair types. Type 4 hair is not the most represented. And considering historical events, this is something that is as long as a century. Even up till now in 2024, people are still experiencing hair discrimination here and there. I would say that things have gotten a lot better, and that's because even those that discriminate your hair at work, they don't really say to your face. It's mostly in very subtle ways. It's also gotten more difficult for some people to quickly pick on this discrimination.
Hair in corporate America, such a daunting topic, but I'm glad you left this comment because why not? Let's talk about it. And if you're new here, my name is Amira. I'm a corporate VP. I've scaled the corporate ladder. I make well over 6 figures, and I have seen it all, done it all, especially with my hair. And I'm going to start with a little story time because I think transparency is important here. When I first got my promotion in corporate America, my hair was down to my bra strap. I had a relaxer, and it was absolutely given 100% corporate girl appearance. However, when I got promoted to another team and I had to be moved to a client-facing role, I faced a lot of judgment because I looked like a very young person. I was 25 years old, managing millions of dollars for companies and corporations. It was like, and who are you and why are they giving you my money? And so in order to appear older and actually be successful, I cut my hair into like a Halle Berry pixie cut. And it was a choice I absolutely made because I knew that my career depended on it. So when it comes to hair, I always say you got to do what's right for you and what feels good in the situation. Now, once you get credibility, because as I became a top producer, as I became a go-to person on the team, as I built my corporate brand, oh, you better believe your girl was going to work with faux locks and box braids and all of the things. But I absolutely would never do any of that if I did not have the resume to back it up and I didn't already have the competency for them people to believe me. Because when you own your brand and people know that you are capable of doing the work, you get a little bit more leeway with your hair. But if you walk into corporate America saying, I'm not going to let these people change me, I'm going to wear my blonde, my blue, my black, my gray, my green, my purple, better believe you will be judged in that boardroom. Hell, you'll be judged walking down the hallway. And even though no one is directly going to say something to you like, hey, you have blue hair, or hey, why you're wearing blonde hair, no one's going to say that to you. They're not. But in the back room, they're going to be coming up with other reasons why you probably didn't get that opportunity. So my advice is to always lead with your common sense, always lead with your competence, and always let them know that you ain't come to play any games. And then once they know they can rely on you to get the work done and be a superstar, then you will retain and reserve the right to be excellent for other women behind you. So now I wear my faux locks. Now I wear my hair in blonde. Why? Because I've already proven myself and they know what I can do. But until you have that level of comfort, you do what's right for you and your family.
Okay, so before I keep going into hair discrimination, I want to quickly stop and say that wearing your natural hair to work definitely has its benefits. I'm talking you getting opportunities, you being the showstopper, you being perceived as interesting, as someone that is beautiful, unique, someone that people want to connect with. It can be a conversation starter. It can help you make friends quickly at work, depending on your work environment, depending on the work culture, depending on the kind of work you do at the end of the day.
I've worn my natural hair every day for the first week of my internship, and here's what I've learned so far. First off, nobody really cares, especially if it's your first day. If that's how you wear your hair, they're just going to assume that that's how you wear your hair every day. Two, I feel like it's a really easy way to stand out, especially for networking. I feel like people remember my name a lot more because of my fro. It's different. And lastly, I feel like my hair attracts other Black women, which might sound weird, but like you obviously want to make friends, especially if it's a new job, and this is the perfect way to do that.
Now, there's a lot of nuances around this or wearing your natural hair at work, but it shouldn't be that complex. It shouldn't be a big deal. It shouldn't even be a thing in the first place because no other hair type has to deal with this. No other hair type has experienced discrimination because their hair is kinky or because their hair is straight or wavy. It's not supposed to be a thing. So today, wearing your natural hair for a job interview or going to work with your natural hair is it's having very little to no consequences for most people, even in this part of the world. But does this still exist? Yes, it does exist. Hair discrimination is real. Because you haven't experienced it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And you can also understand that because it exists and because of historical events where people have been discriminated against because of their hair texture, you can understand why people take caution around wearing their hair in corporate settings. Let's take things down to what kind of work you do and your work environment. For example, if you work in a very traditional white-dominated workspace and you're probably the only person of color there interviewing for a job or got a job, you're working there as a person of color, now you're transitioning into wearing more of your natural hair and you're terrified to wear your natural hair to work. Maybe you have a long afro. Whatever hair length or density you have, you're concerned about wearing your hair to work. What I can say in that setting is give it a try to wear your hair to work. If there isn't any policy against your hair, because there shouldn't be any policy against your hair, try wearing your hair to work. See how people react to your hair at work. Do that for like a week. See how people react. Do that for like 1 to 2 days, even if you can't do it for a week. See how people react. If it's turning into an issue for you, you're getting a lot of negative experience, then you can maybe think of other alternatives. Maybe the other alternatives are for you to have a conversation with the person giving you this experience, as to maybe why they said what they said or they acted the way they acted regarding your hair. You can also consider if you have other options out there, which is not usually the number one thing people want to do because, hey, it's difficult to lose your livelihood because of your hair, right? And I don't want anyone to lose their livelihood because of their hair. So yes, you might want to keep in mind if there are other alternatives for you out there, because at the end of the day, if you are working in a place and they are not embracing diversity, they are not embracing your hair texture, that's kind of a red flag. I don't think I would want to work long term in such a place. So considering other alternatives out there and looking for those alternatives could be one of your options, but obviously not doing anything drastically when you don't have a backup plan. So always have a backup plan. The other alternative will be maybe try styling your hair in different ways. I'm very careful with this option because at the end of the day, when people are discriminating against textured hair at work, it's not exactly because of the way it's been styled. It has to do more with the texture of the hair, because people will discriminate against your hair if they want to, even if you have locks on, or you have your afro on, or you have your hair in cornrow, or you have your hair in a bun. Even when you pack your hair up in a bun, try not to focus too much attention on your hair and you pack it up in a bun, you could still get discriminated upon. We've had cases like that in the past. So it's not really about how you style your hair. It has to do with the hair texture itself being deemed as untidy, unkempt, or it being a political statement. Some people still view Black women wearing their natural hair as a political statement. It shouldn't be. Let's normalize, like I said in my past video, let's normalize people wearing their natural hair without it being a political statement. And I do want to say that natural hair discrimination did not just start from, workspaces. Even Black girls in school as early as age 5, some of them have started experiencing hair discrimination right from school. So it's not just in workspaces, but I know that we are speaking specifically about workspace in this video, and see how people react to it. Personally, I don't like so much attention at work in terms of like people focusing on my hair. So let's say I have like a very long, thick, dense afro hair. I'll most likely pack it into like a bun or, in a cornrow or braid it or twist it. Because generally I don't want to focus on my hair at work. But of course, it shouldn't be an issue. Yes, in certain work settings, for example, in healthcare, nobody expects you to have hair flowing long and, just calling so much attention and sweeping your client's table and sweeping the floor. Nobody expects that. In healthcare, you're expected to pack your hair up, even when you work in the kitchen, if you're a cook. And this is not just based on type 4 hair. I'm talking about all hair type. Yes, you can let your hair down, but when you have very, very long, thick hair that, your clients can easily grab on, or it can easily, spread on the table, then people expect you to kind of pack it up a little bit just because of hygiene and infection prevention control. So that's that for those settings. The other thing is, if you work in a more liberal environment, for example, if you work in a more creative environment, let's say you are a video producer for a company, or you are the photographer for the company, those creative environments are more lenient with some of their policies. So it's totally fine for you to explore like your personality and explore different hairstyling options. It's okay for you to call a little bit more attention to yourself, because sometimes you're also selling yourself as part of the brand, representing yourself as part of the brand, because this is a more creative work. There are nuances to these things. It's not all black and white. Of course, you don't need to relax your hair or straighten your hair to be deemed professional, to feel comfortable at work. You also don't need to feel threatened that your livelihood will be taken away from you because you're styling natural hair. There's no reason why we should feel any sort of fear towards wearing our hair. So I'm going to use myself as an example. I started working in Canada in a more corporate setting, and I never felt any sort of hair discrimination because the place I worked was quite diverse. We had so many people of color where I worked. So it was normal. It was okay for me to wear textured hair to work. It wasn't an issue. I didn't feel discriminated upon. It wasn't that everyone was wearing their natural hair, but it felt good to wear my natural hair. And I feel like that added to my personality and, people seeing me in a certain way. It was a good experience for me wearing my natural hair. So that was when I was working in an office corporate setting. But when I started working in healthcare during the pandemic, I would mostly tie my hair up because, one, I was so concerned about infection control. So I was always tying my hair up. And I also didn't want to touch my hair or try to adjust my hair on my break or whatever. I didn't want to touch anything. So I always tied my hair up when I worked in healthcare. Also, because healthcare is so particular about your jewelries, your nails, all those things. And COVID-19 was just, it was such a stressful period. So yes, I tied my hair up a lot in a scarf or in a bun. Even when I had braids on, sometimes I would get comments, mostly compliments about my hair, but I just generally did not like the attention. So I would usually tie my hair up. Keep in mind that some discrimination come in very subtle ways. Sometimes it's the whole package for people. People can just be put off with your entire package. Obviously, your hair and your skin tone being a distinguishing factor about you as a Black person. So, keep in mind that there are those subtle behavior, microaggressions that can happen. I also feel like that experience is largely due to the places in which I've worked in terms of getting a paid job. They've mostly been multicultural work setting, a diverse work setting. The places I've lived in, they've been mostly diverse in terms of the people. So my experience is going to be different from someone else's experience, right? I know there are some videos and contents out there with some, ideas on how to style your natural hair for school and for work, which you guys can check out if you need inspiration on how to go creative with styling your hair if you don't want to just pack it in a ponytail or bun or leave it in an afro. I've always been a creative person, and when I started working in corporate, I knew it wasn't for me. I knew I couldn't live the rest of my life working in corporate, so I started pouring my energy into freelancing and working on my creative gigs and hobbies. I don't want to be in a place where I feel like I cannot be free. Playing to the Eurocentric standards at work sometimes helps, and some people get by doing that. For me, luckily, I've never felt like I needed to do that. I've never felt like I needed to climb the ladder in a corporate world and stay with a company that is so toxic. I've never felt like I needed to do that. So as of 2020, a Crown Act was passed in the United States against Black hair discrimination at work and in schools. About 26 states have already signed that and put it in action. I believe they are still working on that being a federal regulation. But when it comes to racial discrimination or hair discrimination, this is something that should never be tolerated. This is something that should always be reported, because if you're facing this and you do not report it, it's not going to help other people. It's also not going to help you. So if you are experiencing any of this, you want to report to the right authorities, check online depending on where you live, get to know about the right authorities to report these things, to speak out, because the more we speak out, for example, all these people that have been speaking out in the past, they've really helped us to get to this point where people can freely wear their hair to work without it being discriminated upon. For most part, okay? I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. It still exists. So speak out if you're experiencing something like this. One thing to keep in mind is if you put your best foot forward, okay? If you go to work tidy, you look neat, you put in the best you can do at work, please, please, and please don't bother. Don't worry about your hair. If anyone has problems with your hair texture at work, especially if it's like your boss, that is a red flag. It's not on you. It's on that workplace. It's on the work culture. And if it's a colleague or a client that, discriminates you based on your hair, this is something that you can pick up with your boss or, with anyone that you look up to at work. This is something you can discuss and iron out. You do not deserve to be discriminated or have any sort of fear around wearing your hair to work. You should be able to go to work and focus on the work. Focus on building your career. Focus on enjoying yourself. Focus on having a good time at work. Focus on making good relationships, meaningful relationships at work without anyone focusing on your hair, without anyone giving you unnecessary, disrespectful, microaggressive remarks about your hair. So that's all I have to say in this video. I don't want to keep it too long, and please let me know your experience. If you have any experience or tips to share with us, especially how to navigate this issue, please let me know down below. Let us know. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you all in my next video. If you want to learn more about natural hair jealousy and some toxic natural hair comments or myths, then check out this next video. I'll see you guys in the next one, but until then, keep shining. Bye.